Everybody, it's Vikki with Mindful Minute, and today's reading is from February 20th, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this correctly, but it says Nicodemus and the Truth. How can one be born again? Nicodemus to Jesus. I often think of Nicodemus, the one Pharisee who secretly believed in Jesus, who would meet with him anonymously at night to have deep spiritual conversations, but who would never acknowledge his question of spirit or his association with Jesus in the light of day. Of course, this did nothing to the essence of Jesus, but traumatically thwarted and plagued Nicodemus for the rest of his days. The story shows us that the quiet pain that comes from not honoring what we know to be true, even if all we know to be true are the questions we are asking, it is even more useful to realize that we each carry a Jesus and a Nicodemus within us. That is, we each have a divine inner voice that opens us to truth and a mediating social voice that is reluctant to show its truth to others. The famous British child psychologist D.W. Winnicott called these aspects of personality our true and false self. It is the true self that lets us know what is authentic and what has become artificial, while the false self is a diplomat of distrust, enforcing a lifestyle of guardedness, secrecy, and compliance. In everyday terms, this means that each time we experience a change in reality, as we know it, we must choose whether to declare or hide what we know to be true. At such moments, we either need to bring the way we have been living into accord with that shift of reality, or we need to resist the change. Thus, in daily ways, whether we live in our true or false self depends on our willingness to stay real. And so, over time, staying real becomes the work of keeping our actions in the world connected to the truth of our inner being, allowing our true self to see the light of day. Very often, we continue out of habit or fear to behave in old ways, even though we know that the way of things has changed. Time and again, I have found myself at this crucial juncture, having to admit that what was essential is no longer essential, and then needed to summon the courage to make the act of living essential again. I know that every time I hear or see the truth, but hold to the old way of being or thinking or relating, I am giving my life over to the Nicodemus in me, and in so doing, I embark on a divided life in which I listen to the divine inner voice secretly at night, but deny it day after day. But this moment of inner embarrassment, when we catch ourselves in the act of split living, is also the recurring chance for us to honor once again what we know to be true. For anyone, no matter how wounded or distressed, can, in a moment of truth, let God within show itself out here in the world. However small or fleeting, this one repeatable act can restore our common and vital sense of being alive. And the activities are today, sit quietly and recall the last time you felt a moment of inner embarrassment. That is, the last time you realized what you were doing was no longer authentic, but you kept doing it anyways. Number 2, if you can, meditate on what made you keep doing what you knew to be untrue. What were you afraid would happen if you honored the truth as you felt it? If a similar situation were to happen tomorrow, how might you act differently? And if you can, don't blame yourself for struggling like Nicodemus. Rather, confront the Nicodemus in you that is safe to honor what is knows in the light of day. And I think that has been a very important part of my personal journey, because when I came in to the rooms of recovery, they told me I had to find God or a higher power, and I just plain old didn't believe in that. So it was quite the challenge for me. And what I did do was I learned how to discover that spiritual definition of my higher power on my own. And at first I was embarrassed and ashamed of it because I had been so staunchly anti any type of God or religion, that it was embarrassing. And I was just talking about this the other day. I would be embarrassed to pray at my house. And that's certainly changed. And I'm not I am still very much of a spiritual seeker. And but I'm not ashamed of it anymore, and I don't have to hide it anymore. And this can manifest itself in things other than spirituality and or religion. It could be just simply not being honest. I get embarrassed if I get in a situation and for some reason I'm not honest. I make up a story, and there's all kinds of things that can happen that are not living in my true self in the way, practicing these the way of living that isn't so self-indulgent, which it used to be. And when I do that, I can certainly feel better, but I go back and forth. And there are times when I don't want certain people to know my beliefs, and there are times when I am extremely guarded, and there are also times when, and this is one of them on YouTube, I am very bold and not ashamed. And I guess that's what it boils down to. That I'm not ashamed, that I'm willing to lean into this idea of this higher energy force, life force, spirituality that has guided me for these years through the good and the bad, and just trusting that. And it's quite a miracle that I'm actually saying this out loud. So I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for the reminder to do it. So I hope you have a